I'm Steph, that quirky bird girl. Hold up, I just heard a western osprey. Oh, it's a laughing kookaburra. A blue jay. And don't even get me started on the belted kingfisher. Birds, aves, uchelis. That's birds in 3 different languages. The more you bird know. Hit that follow and subscribe button for more bird fun. Watch my TV show one day.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to That Quirky Bird Girl. Today I am joined by Daisy, who is an author of a field guide of birds. And I am so excited, Daisy, to have you on here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk today. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited to get into birds, but I think before we get into all about your book and about your writing and creative journey, I'd love to hear first, like, what is your spark bird and why?
Okay, so I have more than one bird that brings me joy, but I would say my spark bird is probably the tufted titmouse. So when I first started paying attention to birds, really, I was in middle school. I had a guidebook for a class assignment, and I had the opportunity to kind of look out my window after this particular class project was done. And I saw this little bird, and I saw this little peaked cap of feathers, and I was so intrigued, and I was like, okay, let's see if I can do this. I used the guidebook, and it was this amazing feeling when I matched the bird I was seeing to the bird in the book. And I started reading about sort of who this little visitor is and where, learning where they came from. It was just this amazing, it's when it all kind of clicked for me, like, oh, this is really cool. This is this really fun way to connect with the world around me, the natural world all around me. So that whenever I see a tufted titmouse, honestly, I mean, they're just freaking adorable, but also like they just, lift my spirits, remind me of that moment. I think it also is a nice thing. I grew up in Pennsylvania. They are one of the birds that you get to see by your feeders in the winter. So they're also this just little bundle of feathers that appears, even amidst all the snow, as a reminder of sort of the seasons and all of the life that's, happening around you, even at the coldest time of year.
Oh my gosh, that I too am a lover of tufted titmice. I think they're so cute. And they're just like, their little mohawk gets me every single time.
Absolutely. They are really adorable. I also think they're kind of fun because they will appear alongside the chickadees and some of the other birds that are coming to your feeder that are similarly sort of small. And so they're kind of like a low effort, high reward watch. You can kind of relax and watch them kind of bouncing around a feeder. And it's kind of neat to see the interactions between the different species. And so, for me, someone who loves to sort of nerd out about sort of what are they doing? There's a lot that you can see there. And yes, that cap really makes them super recognizable. And that's a fun thing too. So yes, they're delightful.
Oh my gosh, they must have been little bundles of joy showing up at your bird feeder throughout the winter. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious, you explained your spark bird but it sounds like there might have already been something brewing around birds for you, or maybe you had access to a guide. So what drew you to birds in your adulthood? Why are you still passionate about the birds?
Yeah, so I love this question. I think that I love animals, have always loved animals. I was one of those kids who I didn't like dolls. I always had lots of stuffed animals instead. I don't know why, but that was just where I was drawn. And when kids think about looking at wildlife, oftentimes many kids think of big apex predators like tigers and lions, or large mammals or lizards or snakes. I don't know. There's a lot of different animals out there that you can jump to first. The reason that birds really, really got me excited was that they are so accessible. This is a non-human neighbor that is very visible, and you can be basically anywhere and you can find birds. So I think part of it was when I started to pay attention in a slightly more careful way, rather than just asking, sort of asking the universe to show me animals, but instead pay attention to okay, what's going on around me? I started to see more and more that there was a lot of really cool bird life. And again, in this case, my first guidebook was 100% a homework assignment. This was not something that I came to just in a flexible way, but I owe a lot to my teacher, Mrs. Rupp, who gave me that homework assignment, because it really set me on this path of paying so much more attention to birds and bird life. When I was in college then, so fast forwarding a little bit, I took some animal behavioral classes and had the chance in the summers to do some research in the field with birds. And that kind of cemented the fascination because that was this opportunity to get really up close and get a much deeper understanding and talk to scientists. I'm a science writer today. And in some sense, I just get to keep doing this amazing thing of learning about birds and sharing what I learn as I go. And that's really for me a huge driver in why I do what I do. And to get to then share information about birds is just sort of like the cherry on top because there's so much fun to talk about and to learn about. So
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, like they are literally everywhere. Like, talk about American robins, and I feel like you can find them in like every corner of the United States,
yeah.
and even in Canada and Mexico. Like, and if you can't find them in the United States, go to England and you can see like the Eurasian blackbird, which is similar. And so it's just, it opens up the world for you almost.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the American robin. They're such beautiful birds. And also I had the opportunity, I live in Austin, Texas now. Because I grew up in the Northeast, I would hear them. I had the opportunity to visit family not so long ago, and I woke up hearing that sort of cheer up, cheerio, and I was like, oh my gosh, the robins. I was so excited. They are, to me, they're one of my favorites when I think about just birding by ear and how rewarding it can be to pay attention to what the birds are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are also just glorious birds and so familiar for so many people, but it's again one of those things that once you pay attention in a slightly different way, it's like, oh wow, there's so much going on here.
Yeah, and almost getting to slow down a little bit with them and watch their behavior, bouncing around and getting silly, but also doing something that's very fundamental for their livelihood, which is catching food, but they're doing it in a way that sometimes it looks like play.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I also just love what you just said about slowing down. I think there's so many ways to bird. I think that's also one of the other reasons why birding can really hook you and draw you in is that yes, you can do this in a group or you can do it by yourself. You can make it competitive, you can keep a list, but it can also be sort of a meditation. And I would say for me, I love sort of that kind of pause, slow down, take it in, sort of play naturalist also, what are you seeing and what might it mean? Getting to know your birds is really rewarding. You really realize you're interacting with individuals too as you do that. I think you can really start to pay attention. If you're doing this at home, you have a chance to really literally get to know neighbors. So
yeah, exactly. And you're in Texas, so it's people travel to Texas for birds all of the time throughout the year.
absolutely. No. And the coast, for example, there are some amazing birding areas for migratory birds. Where I am in Austin, we get all kinds of fun visitors year round. And this is the time of year when I'm especially looking for scissor-tailed flycatchers, for example, who the first time I saw one, it just sort of blew me away. They're so beautiful. They have these have this pretty pink coloration going on, and also these long tail feathers that look super dramatic. It's a line that I have in the book that I should say I borrowed from someone was the first time you see that it's is it a dragon? It's just this very dramatic silhouette, compared with a lot of the other birds you might be familiar with in North America. So they're just gorgeous.
Oh my gosh. And they make their way down to Texas just throughout the summer?
Yeah, so you can see them where I live anyway, you can see them in the summertime. And obviously one of the fun things, right, with birds is you can kind of see them in different places at different times. And I love all of the online tools that there are now for tracking that because it changes a little bit every year. But yes, for us, that's a special summer visitor. Another visitor that I like to pay attention to here, who I have we have yellow rump warblers that come through, or as some
They're
birders
so cute.
they're so cute. As some people like to call them, they are little butterbutts because of that little patch of yellow by the rump, which got them their name. Um, we had a butterbutt coming by regularly who worried me quite a bit initially because I was concerned about a window strike situation. He kept kind of, I'm thinking it's a he, just given some of the behaviors, but I don't know. This bird just kept kind of coming to our window, knocking on the glass, and then we realized this was a bird who was seeing its own reflection and sort of doing a whole sort of, hey, I'm the yellow rump warbler here, not you.
I'm that guy.
So yeah. Anyway, so they are quite charming. They also make me laugh because just like sometimes, sometimes when you're watching things, it is like play or like antics, and obviously we're imagining what's going on in their world. But I think it's as long as you're open to many possible imaginings, like it's actually a great exercise, right? You really think more critically about the birds that you're seeing then.
Oh my gosh. And I love exercises like that because I think it allows us to it open almost like, I don't want to say portals because that's not necessarily what I mean, but it opens up like different world views. And
Yeah.
I think birds can really be a great window into empathy as well, and like consideration and all of these like values that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, that's one of the things that is rewarding when I'm thinking about writing for kids in particular is it's a chance, it sort of adds an extra layer of like mission to the work because you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to help you learn about birds, but I'm hoping that along the way, I'm going to help you just care and care about, other species and think about what we can do to help them, and what it would mean to sort of, again, I keep bringing back this word neighbor. What would it mean to be a good neighbor to the birds around you, for example? So it's kind of I think I totally agree. I think it is empathy building. And I just also want to say, I think that's part of why what you're doing is really special to stuff. Like, you're building community through birds, and that connects people with birds, and it connects people with each other. And that's really important.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think to the same effect of your book, I think that's part of the reason why I was so excited to speak with you as well, because I really connect with your mission of sharing about nature and our outdoors. And regardless of what that age group looks like, I think being able to sort of like hybridize and move. And we were talking about that a little bit last week as well. And I'd love to get into it too. Like maybe if you could share a little bit about like what like the age group fluctuations you've seen like in your own writing.
Yeah. So as a science writer, I try to write for lots of different audiences, and kids are one of the most enjoyable ones to write for. As I just mentioned, sometimes it's because there's a little bit of a mission element. Like there's a sense of hopefully not just sort of teaching at, but more like sharing lessons learned, hopefully in a way that is like genuinely useful and in a way collaborative. Like I'm hoping that I'm not just telling, but actually showing them sort of why you might care, why you might be excited, why this might be something that you're going to stick with for the rest of your life. I think something else I may have mentioned before is that when I write for kids, especially about science, I often find that adults come to me later and say, yeah, I read it too. I found it really helpful because one of the fun things about writing for kids is one, you can lead with the wonder. You can lead with the sort of the curiosity and the joy of discovering things. You don't have to sort of stay in sometimes with adults, there's a little bit of like, well, how will I use this information? And you have to kind of lead with that. With kids, you can just be like, did you know that pigeons have learned how to play ping pong? Because that's something that scientists have absolutely done with pigeons. It's crazy. And we can talk more about that, but like, it's a whole thing. With adults, you have to be a little bit more serious sometimes. So with kids, you can be joyful, you can lead with curiosity and wonder. And you can often reach the adults through the kids stuff because you're never gonna ideally, you're never going to underestimate your readers' curiosity and intelligence, but you're also not going to overestimate their knowledge, which means that you're going to try to explain things in a way that as many people as possible can understand. And for a lot of older readers, then this becomes a very kind of friendly, judgment-free zone where like it's okay to not know a lot of the words that other people who are really into this already know by the time, you know, they're the same age. So that's kind of one of the really fun things about writing for kids. You can really start from first principles if you want. Now, I should say I wrote this sort of imagining and thinking about middle schoolers that I know when I was writing this. I have some friends who have younger kids who have absolutely also turned it into kind of like a simpler bedtime activity of like pick the bird in the guide and we'll talk about the description together, which the first time I heard that, I was so excited.
Oh my gosh, that's so smart. And I just opened up to the Tufted Titmouse page.
Nice.
Oh, that's so perfect. Oh my gosh, I could see how that's such a great activity because you could learn about each individual. Like, oh, do you like the way this one looks? Like,
Right. And it just sort of makes it like a little taste, right? Because it's a guidebook. It's not a chapter book in the traditional sense. So, you know, it was a format I hadn't thought about, but I was really happy to hear it because that's also a lot. I mean, when I worked on it, I worked on it bird by bird, like just sort of trying to think about the most interesting things we could share in each case, which it was so much fun to work on.
oh my gosh, you must have had like so much content. I feel like I would be one of those like CSI, apartment photos where it's just like, and I could connect this to this, and there's like a string from one wall to the other.
Yeah, the hard part, right, is with so much of writing, when you're excited about the topic, it's so hard to winnow it down, right? And like bring certain things into focus. I think writers are always sort of complaining about that, but that was absolutely an issue here.
Oh gosh. Yeah. What was that like for you and your like writing process and figuring out like how you can highlight what maybe you most care about or what you think the reader would most care about?
Yeah, so something I should say, this was really important, and I think it's actually useful to know if for anyone who's excited about writing in general. Writing is in some ways a very solitary looking profession, and you kind of, there is a truth to the idea that like at the end of the day, if I write something, I have to sit down and write it. Like it's just me and a piece of paper or a keyboard, right? Like, however, writing I think is often strongest when there is a collaborative element. And so for this book, from the very beginning, because this was sort of like an amazing opportunity, the publisher was very involved. The editor was very involved. We consulted with experts at the National Audubon Society. We spoke with different people with different kinds of expertise on birding and ornithology. And so that was really, really helpful because to be honest, had I been left entirely to my own devices, this book would have been enormous, right? Like it would have been so hard to pick and choose. So I owe a lot, and that's why there's a very like meaty acknowledgement section. I owe a lot to a lot of people because I really did find I needed and I benefited from collaborating with other people and getting their perspective. I would also just say for anyone who's interested in writing anything, it is so powerful to find people who will be readers that you feel like they get where you're going and they can look at this and they can give you feedback in a constructive way and give you ideas and you can bounce things off of each other. Like it's really powerful. I also do freelance editing, and I would say like that is the beauty of editing. It is this opportunity to help people tell stories well. And so when it works, it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, that must be so beautiful. As you were talking about doing some editing, I was thinking a little bit about like what the experience of an author must be like as you sort of go through the journey of like developing your writing, curating. But I'm curious, like because you get to see both sides, does that make you a little bit more maybe like critical of your writing in a way that you wouldn't be?
Definitely. You are exactly right. That intuition is spot on. So it is, in some ways, it is obviously a great thing to have a sense of both sides of it. It means that I really, to return to a word you used earlier, I value empathy a lot. And I believe that I can really put empathy forward because I have perspective on what this looks like on both sides. But when it comes time to write, it's really a different set of muscles. Like in the sense that when you're creating things, you have to be okay with making mistakes. You have to be okay with like writing a first draft that was terrible, right? You have to be willing to play with it. And if you're in edit mode, you're in that refining, you're in that like, making it better. And you can't do that until you've created something to start with and you can start like working through it. Even when you're just at the conceptual ideas phase, like depending on how you like to work, you have to be willing to put ideas out there, and some of those things are going to stick and some of those maybe not. And maybe you even have like 10 really amazing ideas, but you're going to have to pick one. So like you have to be able to kind of switch which kind of thinking you're using. And that again is where like working with other people can help, because that's a lot for one person to do, at least for one project, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, I can't recommend enough, like, finding people you trust who can be sort of even informal editors. Because at the end of the day, an editor is, editors, we even say, they're surrogate readers, they're stand-ins for the readers. So their reactions, whether it's things like, this is cool, but I didn't understand, or yeah, I know you use that word, but we shouldn't use that word, and here's why. Those are valid reactions, and you can't satisfy absolutely every editor or every reader, but it's so helpful to kind of workshop things that way. But yes, to answer your question, it's very hard to switch gears.
Yeah. Are there, or maybe even at times, like throughout developing this book, where you were maybe not unsure, but just where you went back and forth on some of the feedback that you received, and how did you like ultimately decide to maybe prioritize your voice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there were many moments, because a book is such a big project, where, I had to pause and kind of take stock of feedback. I think I'll say a big picture thing and then I'll give a specific example. But big picture, what I've noticed is that if you get feedback and you're not sure about it, it doesn't feel right somehow, it does help to have a conversation, right? Because then you can stop and you can ask, your editor or your reader, or in some cases, right? I shared things with experts to get a sense of like, what do you think? Is this a good range? Is this enough material? Like, what's missing or what's not there? And it was often the case that I'd get feedback that I was sort of like, oh, I didn't think about that, or, oh, okay, I can do that. But every now and then, right, something would come in that I was like, I'm not sure about that. So, if the person is willing to have a conversation about it, it helps a lot, because then you can really talk about, hey, what was it that made you say that? Because there might be another way for me to address that. And maybe it's not exactly what you just put forward. Maybe it's something else that feels true to what I want to do. That's something that I feel like comes up all the time when I'm writing and editing in general. The example that comes to mind for this book, and this is a much sort of simpler one, but one case where I was absolutely like, no, I have to have this bird. I, we were talking a lot about the balance of birds in the book. Several people were like, I don't know that you need the great-tailed grackle. Like, I'm not, I know. Well, it is admittedly, right? It's actually really hard stuff deciding like this bird or this bird, right? And I tried where I could, but this is not a comprehensive field guide. I tried where I could to include little notes like, you may not have this bird, but you might have this similar bird near you. The great-tailed grackle, there are other grackle species that you can find in more parts of the country. But in Austin, Texas, that bird is iconic. And it is, frankly, a divisive bird where, you see them so much that it's kind of right on the edge of some people love them and some people hate them and see them as pests. I feel like sort of reclaiming them and trying to present them in a different way, in a way that's like, hey, they are, complex creatures, complex beings. And, this is how different people have looked at them over time is really helpful. And as someone living in Austin, I was like, there is no way this book cannot include those birds. Like, they are just too central to my life here and the lives of so many people who live in this city in particular. So that was one moment where I sort of called rank and I was like, nope. So sometimes you have to do that too.
Oh, that is so fun. And I love that you included the great-tailed grackle because they are such like, I mean, I went to Dallas some time ago, and the second I got off of the plane, I'm like immediately greeted by grackles everywhere, males, females, young ones. I'm like, I don't know where to look for all these birds.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I actually will joke, like, if I have landed and gotten off the plane in Austin and walked out of the airport, I am expecting to hear them as like the welcome committee. Like, they are just the noises they make. Like, it's just this rich, to me, that's also one of those where like I hear them and I'm like, that's so cool. I can't reproduce or even like begin to approximate the sounds that I'm hearing. I love them. I think they're really, really, really cool. Even, you know, they have like a really interesting silhouette. Like, they have a lot of interesting angles. So I think people look at them and they are reminded of maybe other sort of black birds that they have seen, or crows, or, you know, but they're not corvids. Like, they're really fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh, and I love how they always do that like scrunch inward before they like, and then all of the feathers just like pop out.
Yeah, no, really fun to watch. The males have these really elaborate displays. They're really intriguing, and I think underappreciated. I do get it. If you live here, the two complaints are always, oh, they're noisy. Or, you know, the classic sort of somebody got unlucky and they're parked just underneath a bunch of them. But, you know, they honestly, like, big picture, our species does an awful lot that, you know, I'm sure the birds would like us to do differently. So you live with them and we adapt. So,
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's like the nice part too, is we get to see like ourselves even evolve a little bit around their behavior.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's an interesting thing that we don't even pause to think about, but like, they are influencing us too, right? Like, they are changing maybe where we park, maybe, you know, for anyone who likes to use feeders or put out bird baths, right? Like, this is what we're doing in response to them, for them. It is really interesting to see like that back and forth.
Yeah. And I'm curious, you know, throughout your writing, have there been opportunities where maybe different species that you didn't or don't necessarily like interact with or have not interacted with that like really shone through in your writing?
Oh, yeah. So I would say there was more than one species that as I was reading about them, I was like, I want to meet this bird, right? Like, because again, since this is not comprehensive, and our goal was to develop something that that ultimately would be useful in many parts of particularly the US and Canada. I had a chance to sort of read about birds that I hadn't necessarily thought about deeply, and in some cases hadn't seen before. And I mean, there are some sort of obvious, like, I would love to see a barred owl, like owls in general, right? Like, I like, you know, not the easiest necessarily to find, but it would be so cool, right? I would also say, like, desert birds in general. There's a very short section on desert birds in here. And it made me realize, like, I want to go out and I want to discover these birds. So while a lot of them are familiar and I have seen them before, there are quite a few that, like, I don't know from my own experience, or like I'll know the species that sort of resembles them in a different part of the country, but I haven't yet had the pleasure of sort of a first person, you know, observation yet. So that's definitely one of the fun things about this. And yeah, it was also just a ton of fun to kind of get to know these birds then first through the descriptions, because I mean, many birders do this, right? You learn about the birds that might be in an area before you go out there. But this was just a reminder to me of, like, there are just so many cool species that, you know, it would be fun to get to meet.
Yeah, it reminds me of this saying that I share in my community all of the time, but it's like the world is your oyster catcher.
Oh,
Like,
I love that.
yeah, I feel like just like going out there and imagining seeing the birds and seeing or experiencing them, like there'll be times when like the birds come to you too.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. In fact, I had a chance to spend a little bit of time in Arizona earlier this summer with family, and we very literally were sitting in a hotel, looked outside, and a roadrunner was right there. And I, went on full on. Everyone around me was just like, "Oh, there she goes," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Just
That's
like glued
awesome.
to the window, because they are. I had seen them in the wild before, but it's just they're fascinating to me. Like they're such interesting birds visually, and again, like a rewarding watch just in terms of like their movements. I have not, for example, seen the behavior described, I think, in the book of, they will sometimes wander around like with a little bit of a lizard or a snake tail or something in their mouth, like sort of like taking their snack to go. Like they're really interesting, right? And like they are nothing like the cartoon, but they're really, really cool birds.
Yeah. Oh, that must have been so amazing to see it and have that moment. And I love those moments when like your people are around you, like people that love you, that know you, that get
Yeah.
you, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yep, she'll be back in like 20 minutes."
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, with like a full camera storage and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And a million little stories that they're just like, oh, okay. And then the bird did what? Oh, yes. And I'm like, and then this happened. So,
Yeah. There's
yeah.
like so much lore you could create a Pixar film.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Beautifully said.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh, I love that. And I was just flipping through and I think I may have found your desert section and I'm curious, were there other birds that you were able to while you were in Arizona like come across?
Yeah, so we ran into Cactus Run and Canyon Run also, which was pretty exciting. And actually, I had to put a plug in for. I would not have found either without a Merlin Bird ID app in that case, because that was definitely like I hear them first, and I was like, I think those are, but I'm not sure, and let's check. So just as an aside, that is an amazingly helpful one to have. That was both of those were really, really exciting. There are just so many birds that you can see. It's desert birds are really exciting too because again, from the just sort of like cool science side, like it is fascinating to me to learn about how these animals are so resilient and like the strategies that they have to survive, right? So a lot of desert birds, for example, uh, because there's not enough water, they actually are getting liquids from the food that they eat. So, with cactus wren, for example, there are stories about these birds coming and sort of eating the insect remains that got stuck to cars because there's just a little bit of juice in there. The first time I mentioned
Oh,
it to someone was like, I would love to have a cactus wren just sort of hanging out in my garage. Because yeah, it's a weird little behavioral quirk, but that is a way to get more liquids in their body. So yeah, it's amazing what they have evolved to do to survive.
oh my gosh, that is so cool. I had no idea like about the cactus wren and it's sort of like not necessarily relying on humans in that way, but there's a little bit of like an interesting relationship.
Yeah, that they can build off of this opportunity that we've provided them with of like a little like lunch buffet of sticky insects. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine it's like so. Well, I may be wrong. Maybe it is appetizing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it really right for us, yeah, but
Yeah. Okay, well, that it's been so lovely to talk with you and learn more about your journey as a writer and love for birds. And I have like one last question for you. And so I'm curious if you were to rename one bird, um, what bird would you choose and why?
Yeah. So this is an amazing question. I just want to say like such a good one, so timely because there is this shift happening where we're renaming birds that have some kind of human name tagged on there. So my brain jumps to two. Um, one, and this is, this is a little off the cuff, but when I was working on this book, I learned a little bit about the Bullock's oriole. That's a bird that I have not seen because I am less familiar with a lot of the Western birds, just given places that I've had the opportunity to live and do birding. But these are just such lovely birds. A part of me feels like we could surely do like something more like colorful. And my first proposal might be like the sherbet oriole or something like that.
Sherbet Oriole, I love.
Which is a little, I know, a little silly, but like they just have this sort of like, to me, almost citrusy look about them, like this sort of like, saffrony, like yellow, sun orange color to me. Like I like that idea of like kind of leaning into the color and like the vibrancy. So that would be one of my pitches for sure. The other one that I am excited to see renamed is the Stellar's Jay. And those are just, yeah, right. Like they are just amazing. They are, as members of sort of this amazing family of very smart corvids, like they are such, fascinating birds. Like they can just do so many things. Like they are, they're, I mean, they're really good at interacting with their environment in creative and interesting ways. I don't have a good pitch offhand because I kind of want to think like I feel like they deserve more than just having someone else's name tagged on, if that makes sense. So like I'm really excited to see where that goes. They're also beautiful. Like they have like this fascinating like the dark and sort of crested head and then the very very vivid blue below. So yeah, I mean you could, I guess if we're playing off the colors, maybe like the Midnight Jay or the dusk or dawn or something. Like you could do something like that with that sort of cool ombre going on. That might be interesting. Yeah, but I feel like that's a bird that the rename has been a long time coming because the first time I was like, or I guess you could play off of the original name and call it a Stellar Jay.
Ooh, a Stellar Jay.
It's a little corny, but there might be something there.
I feel like if we're in the bird space, it's meant for us to be corny,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and I love Midnight Jay and also just Stellar Jays are some of the coolest birds.
Yeah. They're really, really, really cool.
Yeah. Oh, Daisy, well, it was so lovely getting to know you and chatting more. If you could share with my audience just a little bit about where they can find you, what you have coming up next, and maybe anything exciting you want to share.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. At first, thank you so much for doing this stuff. It was such a pleasure to talk with you. I was so excited because talking birds is just a joyful thing. And so what a wonderful way to spend some time in a morning, like talking birds. So I will throw a quick plug in that you can find the Kids Field Guide to Birds on Barnes and Nobles, on Amazon, and if you ask your local bookstore, they can also carry it as well. And in terms of finding me, I am a sporadic but enthusiastic Instagram user. You can also track me down and see sort of some of the things that I'm up to occasionally on my website. And in terms of things that I'm working on right now, I am actually very excited. I'm working on a story that involves animals and the origins of music for Scientific American. And so more details TBD, but you can take a look at Scientific American issues in future. I can also share a tip when that's out in the world stuff, and then maybe we can talk more about it later.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be so lovely. And that's so exciting. Congratulations on your next work.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I'm excited about it too. And I'm very much in the throes of sort of the writing and the editing right now. So everything we were talking about earlier felt very close. But it's a good thing. It's a good process.
Oh, That's so great. All right, well, I'll include links to your website and then to your Instagram so everyone can sort of stay connected with your content. Thank you so much, Daisy, for joining.
Thank you, Steph. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.